in the summer, people were sitting with their backgammon boards playing for like €2. Hey, I knew the rules, so I sat down and I lost a little, and the next time I lost a little, and one time my dad gave me like €100 for a new pair of shoes, and I came home late at night. I didn't have any money and I didn't have any shoes. That was not a proud moment for me. Let's try and get better at this game. I did. The backgammon world was stagnating. Poker was booming.
And look who's going to get in our game now.
Yeah, I'm on top of the world. I can beat all the best players.
40, 50,
There's going to be some gambling now.
Holy shit.
Et bonjour tout le monde et soyez les bienvenus pour un nouvel épisode de All Interview. Épisode bien entendu très particulier pour moi et j'imagine pour tous les fans de poker. Eh ben, ma foi, d'il y a quelques années, puisqu'on reçoit aujourd'hui l'immense, la légende, Gus Hansen. Bonjour Gus, ravi de t'avoir avec nous. Comment ça va?
Ça va bien? Et toi?
Prêt pour une interview entièrement en français?
Oh non, très difficile pour moi. Je comprends un peu, mais une interview, pas possible.
Okay, let's do it in English. So Gus, I'm gonna ask you a few questions about you, your life. Everybody wants to know everything about you, but we only have like an hour and a half. I'll do my best in English. For the French people, of course, it will be subtitled.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, you will have to talk slowly to me, maybe.
Okay, we're gonna take it easy.
Take it easy, yeah, okay. So let's go back first to your origins. Let's go back to your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Well, Denmark. In Denmark, a small town, like 4,000 people. I think it was a nice place to grow up. Just we had the school next to the football stadium. We had everything was centered around that. You had the kindergarten, the school, after school things. So it was nice. A lot of everybody in Denmark rides their bike. A lot of playing ball, this and that. So it was a good childhood. I have good memories from my childhood.
Well, you talk a lot about sport already. I was going to ask you, did you grow up in a gambling environment?
I wouldn't say a gambling environment. My dad was a bridge player. He enjoyed bridge a lot, so we always had a deck of cards at home. We had a chessboard, etc. And I always liked to compete, like whether it was hacky sack where you had to juggle on your feet, or play tennis de table, whatever it was. So I was used to that, thinking, learning, playing chess. I wasn't very good. Playing bridge, I wasn't very good. But you have to start somewhere. So I always enjoyed that, and yeah, there was a lot of that in my childhood, and also just with friends after school. Back in the days, we're back in like the early 80s. You didn't have a screen, you didn't have a computer, you didn't have a phone, so you went home after school and you played some football.
Okay.
That was a standard thing to do. A couple of guys meet and play a little game, and that was life back then.
So it was maybe more about competitions than gambling?
Yes.
Okay. Any brother or sister?
I have a big sister, 2.5 years older than me. We weren't that close. I was always competing, playing sports, and she was more into the school stuff, friends in school. And I think it wasn't until like she turned like 19, 20, and I was like 17, 18, stuff like that. We got a lot closer, and we're very close today.
Okay, about Denmark, what is the general perception of gambling in Denmark?
Oh, what's the general perception back then? I didn't know anything about gambling, but like when I started, it was like underground. Nobody did it. It was kind of weird. I remember my mom's girlfriends I came back from a trip to the US and I was doing good, and they were saying, so when are you coming back to Denmark to get a real education? And I was like, hey, I'm actually doing what I like to do, and I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm happy. That should be a good. But that was kind of the general vibe, and it kind of still is like, oh, you should get yourself an education. It has obviously changed since now poker is a household game. You can play online, but you can also watch it on TV, especially with the boom back in the early 2000s. So it's different, but there's still a lot of rules and regulation, and it's actually right now they're debating on whether it's at all allowed for a person to advertise gambling, like for a known person, a soccer player and stuff like that.
Okay. About your youth, tell us more about your studies.
My studies, I was not a good student.
That was my next question. Were you a good student?
No, I was not. I think I've always had an easy time with numbers. I'm very proud of my mom and dad, and I think they taught us to read books, etc. So school was fairly easy for me, and when it's a little bit on the easy side, it's also a trigger to maybe become a little bit lazy with the schoolwork, because I mean, the math book that we had in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, I mean, it took me an hour, and that was the year for the book for like the next 4 months. So I was like, okay, let's do something else.
Okay, so you were gifted with numbers?
Definitely numbers. I've always liked to juggle with numbers and do math in my head. So.
And what about this taste for competition? Is it why you've excelled in sports too?
Well, I mean, excelled in sports is kind of a big word. I've always been good at sports. I've been a solid amateur, never at the top level. But most of it comes from just, I love to practice. I mean, I love to, nowadays it's paddle. I practice a lot. I like to improve. You can find me in the airport waiting for a flight, and I'm doing my bandejas just in the mirror. So I like to do that, and that obviously helps when you're in your sports endeavors, that you like to practice, you like to improve your shots, etc., etc.
I've heard you went until the semi-finals of a sport we don't really know in France, racquetball.
Yeah, you actually have some good French players.
Yeah?
It's like, as the name racket, it's like the racket sports. I would say the old racket sports. It's tennis de table, it's badminton, it's squash, and it's tennis. So you compete in four different sports. So you have to be pretty decent at all four. And obviously, if you're very good at all four, that would be the best. But I was well-rounded, pretty good at all four sports. So they've had the World Championship, I think, the last 30 years. Beginning of the 90s, they started. And I played the World Championship a couple of times in, like, I think 13, 14, 15, something like that. And one year when it was held in Sweden, I got to the semi-final and was actually close of getting to the final. I would have lost the final because it was up against a better player, but nonetheless, that was a very nice result for me.
We will jump a bit in the future, but tennis brings you to meeting Stéphane Matheu. Am I right?
That is correct. That was like I played a lot of table tennis and a lot of tennis when I was like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And when I was 12, I remember clear as day, we're standing in the garden, and my dad comes to me and says, okay, now you have to choose. You have to choose one or the other, because I was basically playing table tennis like 6 days a week and tennis 4 days a week. So it's like there's just not enough room to do that, and he preferred that I focus on one of them instead of just juggling forth and back. So I was better at table tennis, but I liked tennis better, so it was tennis. So that I played that all the way through my teens and 18, 19, 20, and then I started into the gambling endeavors. And obviously, as you said, because of my tennis affiliation, I, by random, got connected with Stéphane Matheu when he was in Vegas.
So you just were looking for a good tennis player to play with you at Vegas?
Yes, just to practice, because back then I was mostly playing tennis, and I've always felt that doing sports was a good move for my concentration at the poker tables, at the backgammon board, etc., etc. It keeps you energized, revitalized, and just better well rested when you get some sweat going. So that's basically what I was looking for, and well, he was pretty much the best tennis player in Vegas, apart from Andre Agassi.
And Stéphane, he always tells the story is that he met poker because of you, because of after one of your practice, some chips fell from your pocket.
Yeah.
And he was like, what are those chips? Where are they coming from? What are you doing? And then he learned all the poker world from this. So because of you.
Yes. Well, we played some tennis. We became friends and hanging out, getting some drinks and in the beginning. And then he thought, I gotta check this out. I've been in Vegas for so long. I gotta know what this poker is about. So that was his entry to the poker world.
Okay, let's go back. And you told us about backgammon. So was backgammon the first time you put a step in the gambling world?
Yes.
Okay, how did you meet backgammon? How did you meet backgammon?
At random, backgammon is very big in Denmark. Basically, for many years, the best players in the world came from Denmark. It's very well organized. We have tournaments. We have that covers the entire country every year. There's the Danish championship, all kinds of stuff going on. And back in the days, in the main walking street of Copenhagen, a lot of in the summer, people were sitting with their backgammon boards and playing against tourists for like €2 or €5 or something like that. And hey, I knew the rules, so I sat down and I lost a little, and the next time I lost a little, and one time my dad gave me like €100 for a new pair of shoes, and I came home late at night. I didn't have any money and I didn't have any shoes because I had lost it all in backgammon. That was not a proud moment for me. So then I decided, let's try and get better at this game, and I did.
And what about your very first poker hand?
The very first poker hand was in the U.S. in California. I was working there through some affiliations from the backgammon gambling world, and so I spent a year over there. And they had a card room in Capitola, card room in Santa Cruz, and I tested it out. It was like back then people were playing mostly limit, so it was like $2, $6, something in that range, $2, $4. So I could win $100, but as we all know, in the beginning, I mostly lost $100. That was kind of my bankroll that I could afford to lose. I didn't lose all the time, and then I had no clue. I didn't even know that a flush beat a straight. So it was blank sheet, so I had to start from zero, and I was basically like, what was I, 19? Is that correct? 19? No, I was 21 when I learned the rules.
Okay. Now we will talk about the way you turned into a professional poker player. So It all started with backgammon. Your bankroll, you built it in backgammon.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
what was it like to how did you build a bankroll playing backgammon?
Basically, I mean, you can compare it. It's a gambling game. It's a skill game, but there's a fair amount of luck involved. It's like we sit down and play poker. Anyone can win in one night, but in the long run, the better player will win. It's the same in backgammon. You can get lucky a night or two or three. And there's tournaments around the world. There's World Championship, which was held in Monte Carlo, Monaco, every year, and still is, I think, since like the early 70s. So it's been held there, the World Championship, for over 50 years. And people gather to these tournaments, and just like in poker, there's tournaments and there's cash games. So I preferred to play the cash games, and I was a pretty decent player. So I made a pretty decent living. Well, when you're 20, 21, 22, you don't need that much. But yeah, I did okay for myself back then. And on some of my trips to the US, I bumped into to Huckseed, former WSOP main event winner. He still plays, an accomplished player. I usually stayed with him when I was in Vegas, and obviously got to learn a little bit about the poker world.
But how do you find a game in backgammon? Is it private game?
That's the thing. That's also the fact, because I've always considered myself a better backgammon player than poker player. But it's very confrontational in a sense. When you play cash game in poker, it's like 8 guys sitting around the table. Okay, Jonathan loses, Peter wins, Rebecca loses. You don't really know. You know how you do yourself, but you're not sure what's going. In backgammon, you always know who wins, and I usually won. So in the end, the circle was much smaller than it is in poker. So it was really hard for me to get a game. So I kind of felt like, okay, this is not going to last, because I mean, if you don't have any game, you're not gonna lose, but you're definitely not gonna win either. So that's why I tested more and more the poker world, what was happening there, and see if I could make it there.
And how did you make the switch to become a professional?
I spent a lot of time in Vegas. I had finished my gymnasium, high school equivalency, and hey, you're young, you travel, you have no obligations at home. So I spent a lot of time in Vegas, and staying with my friend Huck and his girlfriend, and just play. And at some point, I have never been a good bankroll management kind of guy. I've never been good at writing down results and this and that. But at the end of the day, at some point I figure out, hey, after a month I had more money than I had last month, and the next month I had more money than I had last month. So that's kind of how the way it went. I didn't keep meticulous books or anything, but I did okay, and I said, hey, there seems to be a lot more possibilities. Also, like in the late 90s, we were seeing the first chapters of, I think the first one was called Paradise Poker, the first online site, and things like that started to show up. So it just seems like the backgammon world was stagnating, not much was happening, same group of players, but poker was booming. There was always new players. Back in the days with Huckseed won the main event in 1996. There was exactly 300 players. And every year you could just see, hey, more players. So that was kind of the way it was going. And then suddenly you have Chris Ferguson, and the main event is on TV, and you're just like, okay, things are moving on. And then obviously Lyle Berman, which I played a lot with in the cash games. Very good businessman. He started the World Poker Tour because it seemed like he had an idea of which direction it was going.
So you'd say you took your shot with like I heard 200k bankroll. That's what you are saying lately.
Oh, I don't really recall because I felt like it was all kind of fluid. It was all mixed together. I mean, like if there was a backgammon game, I was playing backgammon, and I was playing backgammon for bigger stakes than I was in poker. And part of the story also was, which I don't know how I forgot that, but I became very good friends with Chip Reese, the late Chip Reese, and he loves to gamble as well. So we played a lot of backgammon, and let's just say I was a better backgammon player than him. So I definitely increased my bankroll with our backgammon sessions. He might have beaten me a little bit back in the poker when I jumped into the big game, but overall I did well on the backgammon board against him.
Where were you living back then? You said Las Vegas, but were you living in hotel rooms or villas?
I remember the first time I was in Vegas, I was there for like 10 days, 2 weeks, and I was staying at a hotel, and I was like, I went crazy. It's because it's such an intense city. But then I developed a friendship with Huck Seed, so every time I was in Vegas, I was staying with him. And actually, when he broke up with his girlfriend, and then I stayed with his girlfriend. So I always had a place to stay in Vegas. He moved a little bit out of town, so I always had a place to stay, kind of where you feel at home. And it's really nice when you spend a long time somewhere that it's not a hotel room, but you have a kitchen, you have a fridge, you go to the grocery store, etc. At least I like it a lot.
Those are good memories, I guess. What was your day-to-day? It was like you wake up, you go get some breakfast, and then you jump into the table. How did you live there?
Pretty much, like no schedule specifically. Take the car, drive into whatever, Mirage, it was in the 90s, then Bellagio opened, etc. And just going down there, we didn't have all the things on the iPhone. Is there a game? Is my game starting, etc. So you just drove down there. Obviously you could call down there and is there any games going, etc. But yeah, that was a daily, a gambling day was revolved around the gambling, a little bit of sports, but back then I was focusing more on learning to play the games than the sport, so it took a little bit backseat in those early years.
Any big pot or big game you remember from the beginning of your poker career?
Well, I mean, like the first time I played a big game was at the Mirage. Was like I didn't really know all the games, and it was 300, 600, which is a big game back then. And let's just say I shouldn't have been playing, but I did good. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm on top of the world. I can beat all the best players. But that was probably not a good move. And then I actually moved down in stakes and played more mid stakes, 10, 20, 20, 40. And remember, this is all limit because there was very little no limit back then. And another time was like, but that was probably a handful of years later where I kind of had taken the step into poker and played a little bit bigger stakes, 200, 400, and there was a 1,000, 2,000 game, which was like huge at the time. And it was like Chip Reese and Doyle Brunson and some tourist guy that I can't remember who was. So I played 1,000, 2,000, which bankroll wise I never should have. And I remember coming home at night and it was a bad day. So yeah, maybe I should have slowed down a little bit there, but I mean, you're young, you can always start over. You, like I said, you have no obligations. So I tested out in some of the big games back then, but I definitely had a period where it was like middle stakes.
So you talked about cheap risk being a gambler. Aside from poker and backgammon, were you a gambler? Do you remember a big gamble, a big bet, and a stupid bet maybe?
Lots of stupid bets. I mean, like I think in the poker world, you're around. There's always, when you play in the casino, there's always a TV on, there's a baseball game, there's a basketball game, there's American football, there's a World Cup in soccer, there's something going on, and a lot of betting. And I found out the hard way that my opinion is not as good as I thought it was, because I've lost a lot of money sports betting throughout the years. So that's, That was not a good endeavor for me. As far as the crazy bets, I haven't had that many. There's been plenty of games where there's been talk about different crazy bets. But for me, I was trying to get a bet going. It was at a televised cash game where we were talking about a celibacy bet, where I cannot have sex for 1 year, and I cannot masturbate for 1 year. So I can't do anything for 1 year. And people thought there was no way I could do it, and I was pretty certain I could do it if the stakes got big enough. And we were talking about betting in the $1 million range. But the bet didn't happen. But in the same game, Durr and Phil Ivey bet $1 million on whether Phil Ivey could be vegetarian for a year. And let's say that didn't turn out too good for Phil Ivey. I think it was around New Year's. I think they just started on the 1st of January, and I think he settled on like the 22nd of January. He just gave up. He didn't settle for the full amount, but he just gave up. So I can't do this.
If I remember it right, I think because of a chicken, he was having dinner at someone's place, and there was like a chicken roast in the oven. Because of this chicken, he was like, okay, I'm gonna buy back this bet, and I want to eat this chicken. So you talk a lot about casinos, about Las Vegas. What was different in Las Vegas back then? Because you say it was intense, but is it even more intense now? How was the mood of this city back then?
That's a good question. I mean, sometimes when you're in it for so long, you don't notice. It's just like if I see you every day for 10 years, I don't notice that you suddenly are 10 years older. But if I haven't seen you for 10 years and I see you, I'm saying, okay, you got older, I got older. But if you see something every day, so for me, I have spent more than 10 years in Las Vegas. And it's pretty much spread out from the beginning of like probably in the 95, 96, and that. So I spent a lot of time in Vegas, and I've seen a little ups and downs, and usually it's like because of what's going on in society. Like the crack in 2008, suddenly Vegas seemed empty. At that time, I had a house in Vegas. I was living in Vegas, and I was just like, where did everybody go? Nobody had any money. So that usually influence a city like Vegas, who's so dependent on people coming, spending their money, staying, buying dinner, going gambling, going to the strip club, playing golf, whatever they want to do. And I didn't go there, but the same factor is what people tell me with obviously with the COVID in those years as well. So for me, it's always been like Frank Sinatra sings about New York, the city that never sleeps, but he probably should have sung that about Vegas, because Vegas is really the city that never sleeps. There's always a table open. There's always some lights here, there. There's always something going on. The gyms are always open 24 hours, etc. The grocery stores are open 24 hours. So it's like, it really is a city that's, and that hasn't changed. Obviously, it's you have the big corporations, and I never got to Vegas when it was like the old mafia movies that you see from whether it's a Godfather or Godfellas or whatever it's called. I didn't live in those days. Chip Reese and Doyle Brunson did. But for me, Vegas is Vegas. Vegas is gambling. Vegas is entertainment. Whatever you like, we have it here. So I've spent 10 years there, so it's kind of home away from home for me.
Okay, about that era from late 90s, the late 90s era, how would you describe the vibe in the poker world, of course? I mean, was it like, it was like, for sure, less professional, more of a bad boys of poker atmosphere? And who was in your circle in this time? So you told us about Oxide, Chip Reese, who else?
Doyle Brunson, and obviously at that time also guys like Negrano and Phil Ivey popped up. So it was a group of those guys that played Eli Elestra, names Jennifer Harmon, etc. Doyle's son Todd Brunson. So there was plenty of people, and many too many to mention. But that was a big group, and also a guy like Dan Harrington who's written a couple of books. But the vibe was much different. I think people were a little bit more. I'm not sure. I'm gonna say it because I thought it, but I was gonna say they were a little bit more stubborn, like saying, they're right, I know how to play limit hold'em. That's the way to play limit hold'em, and not being stuck in their ways. But they didn't have any tools to investigate. At least they didn't know how to. I mean, back then you would have to sit with a deck of cards and deal it yourself, and maybe deal it a couple of times and see what came out of it. But obviously nobody did back then. So people were a little stuck on their ideas. Okay, this is how I'm playing. I'm playing tight. That's the right way. The next play even more tight. That's the right way. And also, people being stuck in their ways helped me, I think, a bit in a tournament circle, because I was just being aggressive and they were being tight. So I just stole a lot of money.
Okay. What about your first big trips for tournaments or big high stakes games? So the first big trip, how was it did you like traveled around the world, or at the beginning was it just in the USA? Was it only in Vegas?
Pretty much Vegas, and then when the tournament circuit started, popped up Aviation Club de France had some World Poker Tour tournaments, some in London. They also had a couple in Denmark, EPTs. And in Los Angeles, in Miami, etc. So I was kind of like, I mean, nowadays you have tournaments all the time. You have Tritons with gazillion dollars in buy-in. But back then there was like 10 World Poker Tours, which was the 10 big events of the year. And then the main event at the World Series of Poker. So there was like 10, 11, 12 tournaments. So it was fairly easy to cover most of them with a fairly easy travel schedule. But mostly my hood was mainly Vegas for my gambling endeavors, and then still a little bit backgammon here and there, which was focused a little bit more on the European side, and with the World Championship in Monte Carlo. So that was kind of I have traveled a lot in the same circles those years, and obviously not to forget the Aussie Millions. So I went to Melbourne for like many years straight, which was also a great feature because it coincided with the Australian Open. So you get to play the tournament, you go to watch some tennis, and and obviously all the players were staying at the same hotel in Melbourne. So I mean, when you're at the gym, Djokovic or Federer would come up and so on, which is kind of cool when you like to play tennis.
Did they recognize you?
Huh?
Did they recognize you?
I've talked to both of them. I've played golf with Djokovic because he lived in Monaco. So I've met him many times. With Federer, I've only met in a couple of times in Australia. So
is it something you like, the life in a suitcase of a poker player?
No, not especially. I really like home, and I really like home away from home. But I've been fortunate that I have some good friends in Melbourne. So that's why I travel. It's on the other side of the world, but I like to go there because I feel at home. I do some sports, I hang out, etc. The same in Vegas is home away from home. And when I moved to Monaco, where I lived for 17 years, I played squash there, I played tennis there, like I said, I played golf with Djokovic, etc. So there was just things to do, so it wasn't, if it's in a suitcase, it's just like, it's only that. I mean, like, I think they started the Asian Poker Tour. I went to, I think, an event, I can't remember if it was Singapore or Malaysia. And basically you're just there, you're just at the hotel, you play the tournament, you go to bed, it gets a little, you forget the normal life. Okay.
And finally, how would you describe your playing style back then? Because in your famous book, All Hands Revealed, it's not only about aggression, it's also about mathematics, pure mathematics, odds, simply odds. So what was the real secret, and how would you explain this odds and mathematics approach?
Well, like we started out, I've always liked to juggle numbers, and again, I think one of my strongest features as a poker player is testing things, thinking outside the box. Like I said, people back then were maybe a little bit stubborn. And okay, stubborn A, stubborn B, like you have a bunch of stubborn guys that all do the same. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not so sure they know exactly what's the right thing to do. Maybe they have a good idea, but maybe we can twist it a little bit. So I've always tried to twist things, and first of all, sometimes it makes you get on the right path because you test out things. But also another feature with poker is that they get surprised. If you do something they haven't seen before, then they don't know how to handle it. And basically, I mean, like, one of the things was like, hey, I noticed that if we were playing 8, often 9-handed back then. If people open in first position, everybody thinks they have ace queen or better. They just have ace queen, ace king, or 2 10s or better. So if that's the case, I want to open in first position because they're gonna treat me like I have a monster. So I just decided, I like, okay, I'm in first position. Am I going to raise this hand? I didn't even have to look at my card and say, yeah, it's about time. So I opened in first position. So finding those funky ideas that mathematically will pay off because of the strategy of the other players, or just basically, hey, if they're not used to people making big all-in bets, then just make some big bets and see what, have them make the decision. I've made my decision, and hopefully you just fold. And then you fold next time and next time and next time again, and I just keep winning small pots.
So you took them out of their comfort zone in a way.
Yes, you could say so. And a lot of times, like, I might have been the best tournament poker player back then, but I don't think I was the best poker player. But I had such a huge advantage because people weren't used to playing tournaments. They were more used to playing cash games. And if they played cash games, it's always the same antes and blinds, so they don't change. and they didn't adjust to, blind suddenly went from 300, 600 to 400, 800. Hey, that changes everything. So if they don't change and I change, it's in my favor.
You remember your first tournament win?
Well, my first tournament win was a Sunday tournament in Santa Cruz where I won $500. And it was the local gangster was playing in the game, and he always lost. He just always lost a couple of hundred. That was kind of the size of the game. And the Sunday tournament, I came there with a couple of hundred for rebuys or maybe the cash game afterwards. I won the tournament. I won 500, so I had like 900 on me, and I went around the corner for a snack. And when I came back, I'm pretty sure it was him. He had somebody knock me out in the street and steal my money. Not knock me out, but like forced me down on the floor and stole my money. So that was my first tournament win, and I lost $900 because I got robbed.
And you sticked with poker, so at least you were stubborn a bit too. Okay, now let's talk about the poker boom. So the poker exploded just as you were hitting your first major success, and you became recognized everywhere. I mean, not only Djokovic, but everywhere. You were even listed among Big People magazine's 50 sexiest men alive back in 2004. So what was it like to be a superstar?
Well, it was fun. I mean, like you're young. I mean, like I'm like late 20, something like that, and everything is going great. I'm winning tournaments. People recognize you, so you get to be in some fun places. I mean, like I've always loved music, and I'm a fan of a musician you might know, Meatloaf. And we played back then with most of the World Poker Tour. There was a celebrity tournament, and so I played with these kind of guys. And I've played with a lot of these, who are still like superstars. Obviously, the Rounders film, Matt Damon and Norton, DiCaprio and Will Smith. I've played with these guys. I mean, it's not like I called them up. I don't have the number in my phone book, but I played poker with them a couple of times. Ben Affleck used to play a lot of poker. He played in the big games with me and Doyle and Chip. So it was fun. You get to meet people. You get to be in interesting places. You have a lot of freedom. You get nice food. It was fun.
I guess it was. Now I want to talk about high-stakes poker because in France and all around in the poker world, but in France it had a major impact in the poker boom. First, how did the show actually work? Where were you?
What do you mean?
Where was it recorded?
Pretty much always in Vegas.
Okay.
So basically, I mean, it was going along with the ideas that kind of Lyle put forth with the World Poker Tour and televised and this and that. And hey, let's televise a cash game. And I think back then probably poker players thought of themselves as bigger superstars than they actually were. But nonetheless, so in those recordings for the cash games, we were actually paid to play. I don't know how it works today because I haven't played in any of those cash games. I don't really spend that much time in Vegas anymore, apart from the big tournament scene. But back then, we were paid like, I can't remember if it was like $800 an hour to play. I mean, I can't exactly remember. We're definitely paid, and I remember vividly that the poker players, I felt we're superstars. We should get paid if you want to see us on TV and this and that. Whereas like, hey, this is what you do every day. But nonetheless, we were definitely treated a bit like royalty, like superstars back then, because like you said, it was a boom. It was new. It was upcoming. Everybody wanted to watch it.
And over how many days was it recorded for, like, one season?
I usually, the way I remember it is they set it up and maybe they filmed for like 3, 4, 5 days and went with that.
Like one day session would produce many episodes, I guess.
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not sure about the intricacies of that one.
And about the players, was everyone playing their own action? Or what?
I think definitely back then people were playing more their own action. I think a lot of times, especially now, you have, like I said, these insane stakes in some of the Tritons and Bahamas coming up with like huge buy-ins. So back then, again, like for the tournament structure, there's 12 events a year for 10,000. So if you have a bankroll, you can afford that, and the cash game could obviously get a little bit bigger. But as far as I'm concerned, I played my own money. Daniel played his own money. Phil Ivey played his own money. Chip Doyle, Guy La Liberté played his own money, etc., etc. So that's my feeling. Some of the maybe a little bit lesser known might have sold a piece or something like that, but I don't think anybody was like staked. I mean, like most people were playing their own money, maybe with a friend having a little part or something like that.
You mentioned Guy La Liberté, so sometimes there were some recreative players, but also the main event winner from this year was a bit sent in the shark cage in a bit. Were there some players who lost a lot?
There's definitely players who lost more, won more, etc. I mean, like I have a feature of my own where I haven't had a winning record playing online. So there's definitely you win some, you lose some, and obviously if you're a recreational player and you're up against the best players in the world, you will lose more often than you win. But yeah, there was definitely some spots that you'd rather play with than play against Phil Ivey and Nick Rano and Chip Reese. But yeah, again, I wasn't the best at keeping track. I was just hoping I had more money the next month than I had the previous one.
But yourself, did you feel you had an edge at, let's say, an average high-stakes poker table?
Yes,
okay.
That I felt. Whether I had it is a different story. I think, again, on the high stakes where we were playing No Limit Hold'em, and it was not the tournament structure. I think I was doing a lot better with the tournament structure, because a lot of times you have a little bit more shallow stacks and people are, for some reason, more afraid of their tournament life than their cash game life, even though the tournament is a 10,000 buy-in and you're sitting with 200,000 at the cash game. So in that sense, my game was definitely better suited for the tournaments than cash game, where the blinds are always the same and people play big stacks.
Would you describe those as the party years, like the rockstar lifestyle we were talking about earlier, best hotels in the world? Did you at some point went too far in some excess, like having too many parties? Just
no, I've never been a big party kind of guy. I've always liked a drink once in a while, but I've actually, which might surprise some people, I've never tried anything. I've never tried any cocaine. I've never tried any I don't even know the letters for these
some drugs with
MDM,
letters. Yeah.
what I don't even know. So that I've never had interest in that. So with that, I've always liked girls. So I like to go out. I like to have a drink, go to a nice party. But it was never like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I'm like worn out because my body, everything is just turned upside down. So for me, that's just never really been a feature. I mean, I know there's definitely been others in the gambling world who's gone a little more down that road. But for me, that has never been a feature.
The poker was booming, so it was the time to be focused on poker because there was like huge amounts of money to be taken. And if you spent all your nights partying instead of playing, then you will lose a big opportunity, and also you would, of course, waste your life.
Yeah.
So was it something that you saw happening in this small poker world you knew late 90s?
Not that much, but there's also this interesting things is like when I'm not going off that track, I might be going off some other tracks, but not going off, it's hard for me to see. Like I can go, we're in Paris today, I can go into the hottest club and there's all kinds of drugs flowing all over the place. I wouldn't know where to look. I wouldn't even know. People after a night out would tell me, "Oh yeah, did you see there was drugs all over?" And I would say, "I didn't even see. I wouldn't know where to look." So in that sense, I didn't see anyone who really fell off the track with regards to that. I do know some of my acquaintances that throughout the past 30 years have had a little bit of trouble and gotten back on track, but no, not really to any large degree.
Okay, now about some online poker, and let's start with full tilt poker. Do you remember the famous press conference anecdote?
I was a sponsored player from Full Tilt, and I was also a part owner of Full Tilt. Like all the other players was, Phil Ivey was, Chris Ferguson, Howard Lederer, David Gray, whatever their name was the sponsored player, was part owner of the game, of the site. And after Black Friday, we basically had some phone calls with 33 owners. And if you can imagine a conference call, 33 people, usually with their attorney, being on a call, and hell has just broken loose. I mean, nothing got done. It was like, I wish this day that I would have recordings of some of those calls, because it was like nothing made sense. I mean, it's just nothing made sense. So it could be that, because it was crazy. I mean, basically, this was regarded as a $500 million to $1 billion company, and from one day to the next, snap, the rug was taken away under your feet. I mean, like basically, the U.S. government removed 60% of your revenue from the players and wanted you to pay a $300 million fine. So it was just like, damn, this was a bad day. And then having all the owners on the conference call, it was just like, you wouldn't believe.
But did they want to get their money back, or were they trying to fight the amounts they were supposed to pay?
Well, that is actually one thing I remember you said about the poker boom and the lifestyle. A lot of people, because basically there was money coming in on a monthly basis from dividends from the company. And I think people had over-leveraged their position, like, okay, I have a house in Vegas, and I could get a beach house in Florida. I've always wanted a beach house in Florida. So now, and suddenly, like that mortgage for the beach house in Florida, or maybe the ski hut in Vail, or whatever it's called, the the money stream is not really there. So that was a sense like panic because, hey, I'm making a lot of money. I mean, it's basically like you have some whatever CEO job and you get a lot of money and just you're fired and you get no more money. That's not good. And you might even have to pay some of the money back because there was a big fine. So yeah, panic. Panic is the best word to describe those calls.
Did you panic this day?
To me, it's always hard to say. To me, I felt like I didn't panic at all. It was like, it was great while it lasted, but the board of directors should probably have been a little smarter, seeing that a situation could come like this, or be better prepared for it. But I don't remember myself as panic. I vividly remember my brother-in-law was helping. He's good with business, so he was my lawyer on the calls, you could say. And I remember talking to him, saying exactly what I said. This is crazy. This is a kindergarten. I mean, they're all blapping and nothing makes sense. So I was calm. Obviously, it was a big loss, but it wasn't going to change my life that drastically. I didn't have bought an extra house in Miami or anything. So I was still living in Monaco and things were fine. So it was bad, but life goes on.
Was there before and after this day? Like, was it like how do you say, marking point in the poker world? Like,
yes, I think I mentioned earlier, like you had the days where Vegas turned cold.
It was one of those days.
It was one of those things because, hey, suddenly you're not allowed to play online poker in the US, and Full Tilt and Poker Stars had kind of continued that. But yeah, so it was a big difference. I mean, like you were wondering, hey, what's going to happen next year at the World Series? Is anybody even going to come? Is there going to be any more money left in the community? What's going on? But I think, as we all know, poker is here to stay. It's a household game. People like to play. People like to play on a Friday night with some of their colleagues, with their friends, etc., etc. So people enjoy poker. It's a great game. So it's here to stay. And obviously the turnout on all kinds of tournaments shows the fact that it's a great game. People enjoy it, and it's here for the long run.
And about you online, how often were you playing?
Too often. I mean, like basically for me, one thing. Oh, there's many things I could change if I could go back in time, but there was some lack of management. There was some lack of discipline. Which is not that dangerous when you're playing live cash games, which I over the years have done fairly well in, because the speed with which you play is a dealer dealing the cards, and there's only so much tilt you can do. You can it's easier to manage, at least for me. Whereas online, you can sit in your shorts, no t-shirt, and you can push buttons. And you can push buttons on 2 tables. You can do it on 3 tables and this and that. And I was bad at managing that. I was bad at managing table selection. I pretty much played some of the best players in all kinds of different games, whether it was limit hold'em or limit stud or Omaha 8-bet or PLO or no limit hold'em, etc. So yeah, I was up against it, but bottom line is it's my own fault. So to the answer, yes, I played too much.
Now that was one of my questions. Of course, did you ever feel like you were the 8th best player in the world, sitting at the table with the top 7?
Probably not. I definitely thought there were times where I wasn't the best player at the table, but I probably never felt as the eighth best player at the table, but looking back, there's definitely been situations where I was, and probably a lot of situations where I was the eighth best player, and also like getting in situations because like playing too much, and suddenly if you play for 10 hours straight pushing buttons, and some guys, which I'm fairly certain for a fact, they play like 2 hours and then a new guy sat down, etc., etc. So I did, especially with that, I would like to have done it differently, but here we are now. I didn't, so I'm still alive. I'm still going strong, so it's okay.
Yeah, and even if you say that in your nature of competitor, maybe you would do kind of the same thing today, because maybe that's what you really like about the game, playing against guys who are supposed to be the best.
Definitely. I love to compete against the best. I think that's a good way to improve your game. And I feel like in some of the cash games I play, I still play against like some top competition. But again, managing the situation, like I was younger, I didn't have anyone at home waiting for me. Now I have a son, so that is normal to be a bit more conservative. Like 15 years ago, I didn't mind as much going broke. Right now, I really don't want to go broke. I'm not gonna go broke, but there was much more daredevil, just boom. And obviously, everybody knows I did lose a lot of money over the course of playing online.
You were talking about your successes in a live cash game too. Have you been traveling to play, as an example, a big private game?
No, I played. I tested out the waters like a lot of other people in Macau.
Macau, okay.
And that was actually only no limit hold'em. So I didn't feel that was my best feature, my best game. But on the other hand, it was a big game, and supposedly it was just coming to Macau, so players probably wasn't top-notch players. I did go there with a bankroll, but you asked earlier about people were staked. I only had 40% of myself. So I knew beforehand, we had planned the trip, we got everything together. I had 40%. The other people, it was like 10 of my friends had like from, the biggest one had 30%, and the rest had like 6% and 4% and etc., etc. So we had the 100%, which was like, went there with like $1.5 million. And so it was a big game for me, but I right off the bat did very well. So I went there a couple of times, and then the games maybe got a little bit more private, and again, probably part of the reason is like I like home away from home, and Macau never felt like home away from home, so I was never really dying to go there, and it was a very, very big game. So in that sense, I probably should have went there a little bit more, because I had quite good success in those games.
Do you remember what was the biggest game you played, these stakes?
These stakes, yeah, we played like 10, 20. So 10,000, 20,000, but that is in Hong Kong dollars. So that's equivalent to maybe a little more than 1,000, 2,000 euro. No limit hold'em. So it's a big game, and the normal buy-in, the minimum buy-in for those games were 125,000, something in that range. But most people would buy in for like 400,000, and some people would buy in for like $1 million, stuff like that. So it's big games. But one game we had been playing all day, and sometimes it got kicked up to 2040, which would be 2,000, 4,000. But we had played, I had a good day, and we were four-handed with one player, which name was Super VIP. That was his name. He didn't speak a word English, and the rule was if Super VIP pointed at your cards after the hand, he wanted to see it, and you had to show him. So that he got that. He got to see your hand after the hand was over. But so it was me and Duan, Tom Der Duan, Super VIP, and Asian guy from Germany, Asian German. So the four of us were playing, and normally it could get kicked up to 20-40. Now we were playing four-handed. We were playing 20-40-80. So everybody has a blind, right, and then the button, and only Super VIP was allowed to put the 16 on the button. So 1 out of 4 hands we played 20-40-60. So 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 16,000. That is by far the biggest I've ever played, and I had a good sessions, and I won 2 of the biggest pots I've ever won in that game. But that was obviously huge. I wouldn't have played that huge if it wasn't because I've already had a good trip and this and that. And to tell a little funny story about that, so this is a Sunday, and I have a big win. And I have a flight back from Hong Kong on Monday night, so the day after. But I mean, the rules of the game are kind of like if you have a big win, you kind of stick around and you don't leave in the middle of the game. It's the players' rules. It's not the casino's rules. The players decide all the rules there. So I came on Monday, and there was this Chinese guy who he organized the game. And he told me that he had just talked to Super VIP, and I'm not allowed to play anymore. I was too good. He couldn't beat me. I'm not allowed to play. So that's the rules of the game. So I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, like, I did beat him up the last couple of days. So that's. So I go from Macau to Hong Kong. I go to the airport. It's like my flight is like 11:20 at night, and it's like 11:15. I'm one of the last ones to board. So I'm basically on the walkway, the plane and the airport, that little there. And my phone rings. And I pick it up, and the guy organizing the game. And he says, Super VIP had just found out how to beat you. Come back. So I was pretty much already on the plane, so I didn't come back that time. But so it's just a different game. And like I said, I actually like that it's the players' rules. Like, if Super VIP wants to play with me, okay. If he doesn't want to play with me, obviously I can't play. That makes sense to me. I'm not too much where the casino, everybody can play. No, if the guy everybody wants to play with doesn't want to play with that guy or whoever it is, to me, I like that feature.
How much in those 2 big pots you win?
Those were like 2 million euro pots.
Wow. Okay.
So they were nice.
Let's talk about the modern poker, if I may say. How did you see the game evolve with the professionalization of poker first and the overall rise in skill level?
Well, I mean, there's one feature that overrides everything, and that's ordinateur, the computer. I mean, it's such a magnificent tool in mathematics. I've seen it in the backgammon world because I've played professionally in the backgammon world. I've watched it in the chess world because I love chess. I was a big fan of Kasparov back in the days, and I'm a big fan of Magnus Carlsen. I've seen it. I also play the Japanese chess Go, where there was a movie about the AI that played against, whether it was in 16 or 17. So I've watched the kind of evolution in those 4 games at least, and it's like we're like small kids mathematically compared to the computer. So it can teach you a lot. And actually also what I find is that it can teach you to think outside the box, because it doesn't care if it looks stupid. If it's the math says that's what you should do, the computer just does it. Whereas, like I said back in the days, people were maybe a little bit stubborn. Oh, you can never do that. So that was the law of the land. You can never do that. Never do that. And that's what people did. And I wanted to push those edges a little bit. But now you have the computer, which is like very math, and just says, hey, you should do those crazy things. So on top of the math, it can also teach you to actually look for some patterns that you wouldn't look at before, that you hadn't spotted. So it's very interesting. So obviously, if people, first of all, you say the professional, being more professional, let's put it that way. So people work harder, people study more, they have better tools. So obviously the level of play is going to rise tremendously. That's without question. And that is for me the big key. I think already in like 5, 6, 7, 8, people were starting, and maybe there was a little bit computer help from the early computers back then. But then obviously the level of the computers is also, as we know, computing power is incremental. It's not like a one step at a time. So nowadays the poker computers are obviously extremely good players, and if you study and learn from them, then your level is gonna get higher and higher for each day.
And also, after Black Friday, with the media hype dying down and the new generation taking over, like the Scandies, European, German schools, solvers, of course you said, high-stakes circuit, Tritons and everything now. Did you try to adapt, or did you step down a bit?
I would say I tried some different things a little bit outside poker, mostly back in Denmark, some ventures there. Like I said, I never felt that No Limit Hold'em was my best game, so I slowed down a little bit on that. And obviously, if people are taking that track and I'm there, it's hard to catch up. So I kind of stayed a little bit in my mixed game zone that I've always liked, and where I still feel I'm turning a little bit back into the No Limit Hold'em, but there's a lot of catching up to do. So yeah, I definitely slowed down. Obviously, I have a kid. It is a big change. I mean, it just changes everything. And obviously, I'm not just going to Vegas on a whim. Every travel I do is planned because I have my son. So in that sense, there's a natural slowdown there. But I feel like now he's also getting older. We played the tournament in Aix-les-Bains. He thinks that's fun, and I obviously think that's great if he follows my career. So in that sense, I'm turning up the volume a little bit and definitely playing more tournaments, and basically looking forward to going to Vegas, playing No Limit, looking forward to Vegas next year, playing all kinds of tournaments. So yeah, I'm trying to jump back into the water, and we'll see how many sharks there are.
And just about your family you're talking about and your life today, how has your balance changed? So you're back to Denmark first?
I'm back to Denmark. After 17 years in Monaco, I moved back to Denmark when he was born in 2020. And I'm still residing there. and that's not going to change. That's still my move, and I can work from there. I have a great affiliation with Winamax. I'm really happy about that. So having my trips to France is a lot easier when your home is in Denmark than traveling to Vegas a lot. So I have my 2 trips a year to Vegas, which is the big trips, and otherwise I stick around and on my home turf here in Europe and have my daily routine with Arthur and with my sports and with studying a little bit of poker when I'm back in Denmark.
Is Daddy Gus a whole new Gus? Or are you still the same Gus Hansen from the early 2000s?
I still have some craziness to me. I still want to improve on my discipline. So there's still some things there, but also people get older. I've said I've gotten a little bit more conservative, and the fact, I mean, I think I've played poker for so many years that sometimes you study and study, and you don't see the results, and sometimes you just relax for a little bit. And then something kind of clicks for you. So I'm actually, this day today, very confident. That's also why I'm looking so much forward to the next couple of tournaments out there, because I feel I can play some really good poker.
You talked about Winamax, the Team Winamax. So you've met some of the best players in the world in the team. You've never met Joao or Adrian before?
No.
Okay, and you talk a lot about Joao, especially. I mean,
yes.
Adrian is Adrian, Mustafa is Mustafa, Davide and everything, but Joao seems to have a big impact on you.
Definitely. I mean, like his. I mean, to me, it seems like I don't know how much Phil Galfond or Stephen Chitwick, how much they study and this and that, but Joao is definitely a premier example of good, solid work ethic, and he's a smart guy, and he has love for all the poker games like I do, whereas the other players are more no limit hold'em, maybe a little bit of PLO, but that's where they roam. So in that sense, I have a lot of respect for Joao. I can sense every time we talk about a subject, he's really thought it through. He's studied that situation, etc. So it's a good, I wouldn't say mentor, but it's a good guy to draw some inspiration from. And I really enjoy our talks. I've said it before. I think he's helping me more than I'm helping him. But on the other hand, I'm still le fou, I'm still crazy, so sometimes I throw him a curveball that make him look a little bit different on things, a different outlook. So in that sense, I hope we can ping pong and help each other. But I love the team, and I mean, like, they're all great guys and all have their different personalities. So I'm just happy to be part of the team.
4 WPT titles, no WSOP bracelets. So what will you do different next summer?
I will play more tournaments. This year I had kind of gotten into my head that I was gonna. I had made a plan for which tournaments to play. I knew it wasn't gonna stick to that plan because sometimes it depends on how well you do. But again, I think I got a much better feel for which tournament I for sure want to play next year, which ones are kind of mandatory and which ones is kind of like 50-50, etc. So and my mindset was too much cash game this summer when I played tournaments. So there's some changes I have to make, because sometimes in tournaments you have to be slightly more conservative with preserving your chips, and I missed out on that a couple of times. where I was in some questionable spots. So there's small things that you can adjust to, and I feel I'm aware of some of the adjustments I need to make, and that's at least the first step, being aware of it. And I think I'm going to do fine actually making the adjustment as well.
Okay, final question for you, Gus. When you will be a grandfather, will you still be playing the main event of the WSOP?
Oh, grandfather, that depends on of when and where. But I think I've been fortunate to have a career in a world that I love, that is challenging on a daily basis, and I'm just lucky to be in that. So I don't see any reason why I wouldn't play the main event or the World Series 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But you never know. But right now I cannot come up with a good reason of why I wouldn't. But on verra.
That's a nice final word. Thanks a lot, Gus. Best of luck, and we hope to see you with a bracelet this summer.
Thanks a lot. It's great being here.